Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to HelpC's broadcast. We today have a wonderful teacher with us. In fact, it's truly an honor to have Mary Thompson here. She was my Ayurveda teacher and someone who inspired me to go on this journey and go deep, and it completely changed my life. She comes to us with decades of experience in Ayurveda. In fact, she was the first graduate from California College of Ayurveda, one of the oldest Ayurveda schools here in California. And since then, she's been a teacher with with them, and one of the most beloved teachers. She knows about Panchkarma. She knows about all aspects of Ayurveda. And today, she's going to be talking to us about constipation and bowel irregularity, a topic that many of us have experienced different issues at different times, but perhaps don't know how it impacts us. So welcome, Mary, to HelpC's live presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Sangeeta. I appreciate being invited by HelpC Health to come here and speak to people. As Sangeeta said, I've been working with the California College of Ayurveda now for close to 19 years, teaching all levels of Ayurvedic to practitioners. And so I've done lots of working with people to correct digestive disorders, bowel disorders. And it's really a topic that I think is really important. It's one of those things that we don't often like to talk about. Who wants to talk about elimination? We'd much rather talk about, quality of our hair or quality of our skin. And this gives us the opportunity to go a little bit deeper and to think about how do we create that good-looking skin and that good-looking hair by keeping the digestive system healthy. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that tonight.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Mary, do you want to talk a little bit about your journey or about Ayurveda and then lead us into the presentation?
Okay, thank you. My journey with Ayurveda began when I had surgery a number of years ago. And when I came out of surgery, the doctors really were not very hopeful that I wouldn't have to have surgery again. And I thought, there has to be something. There just has to be something to answer why I got sick, how I could avoid getting sick again. And the doctors kind of just shrugged and said, no, we're not really sure. So I began a journey at that time, looking into herbalism and, Western alternative healthcare practices. And I heard about Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is a holistic healthcare from India that is more than 5,000 years old. And what I like about that is it's withstood the test of time. When you look at treatments from an Ayurvedic perspective, they've been used for generations. It's not the latest medicine to come out on the shelf. It's the one that's been shown to work time and time again. So as I began to study more and more about Ayurveda, I began to learn how I had created this imbalance. The foods I was eating weren't correct for me. My lifestyle wasn't healthy for me. And I began to look at that and say, well, what could I do differently? And I began to make changes. And I've never had to have surgery again. And I've, really am happy about that, where the doctors were surprised, but the situation never recurred. So that really got me interested in Ayurveda because it wasn't that I had to take a specific herb or I had to do a specific activity. It was I had to look at my life and choose health over what might taste really good in the moment or what might feel really good in the moment. I had to look at my sleep patterns and my digestive patterns, and all of these became important. And I recovered the health of my body. And then I turned around and right away began saying, I want to teach this, and got involved with the college, went to the school there, and then began teaching the day after I graduated. It was, I really have been loving it every minute since then.
And all the students love you. And we are very, very lucky that you decided to teach and share your knowledge with the world. So I know you have a wonderful treat for us today. So I'll let you get started.
Okay.
We are all looking forward to your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do is just switch to share my screen here really quickly. And that's going to come here to our talk on constipation. Now, can you see the screen, Sangeeta?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Good. So I'll play this from the start. So it's really, like I said, I was really excited when Sangeeta called and asked me to talk about constipation, because what I realize is once we hit about the age of 5 and we close that bathroom door, nobody knows what's going on in there. And a lot of the times, there's a lot of pain and discomfort that's going on. And so this gives us the opportunity to kind of open that bathroom door in a nice, safe way and take a look at what's happening and how we can correct what's going on there. So first off, we start off with the concept of just what is constipation? Well, anytime that you have difficulty passing bowel movements, the stool could be hard, it could be dry, or maybe it doesn't pass very frequently and it's still soft. Anytime that you feel like you're not completely emptying your bowels daily, we're going to look at that as constipation. So there's a huge variety when what people may call constipation. From the Ayurvedic perspective, we should be eliminating daily, at least one time per day, and usually about the same time each day. If we don't have daily elimination, we may develop more problems in the body. Lack of daily elimination has been linked with diverticulitis, which is an inflammation of the colon that's caused by too much stool being held in the colon for too long. Hemorrhoids, which are so common, it's projected that about 50% of the adult population at some time in their life struggles with hemorrhoids. And unfortunately, it can create an increased risk of colorectal cancer. So we talk about constipation. We could have hard, dry stool that passes only when we strain. We could have stool that's soft, but the peristalsis is lacking, and so there's no movement. There may be discomfort, or the person might be relatively unaware of the fact that they're constipated, except when they look at the calendar and realize that they haven't had a bowel movement in a few days. So now that we've identified what constipation is, yes?
That's a really wonderful, Mary. I just, for the benefit of our audience, I just wanted to request if you would be able to put your PowerPoint in the presentation mode, so they can see the entire presentation.
They can't see the presentation?
They can see your screen, but you can go to view and then click on present. So it'll cover the entire screen. Right now we can see the outline on the side.
Okay, what do you see now?
What we see is when you open PowerPoint and you can see your presentation. That's what we are seeing. We don't see it in the presentation mode where it's covering the entire screen. So if you go to File and then you click on Present, or you click on the icon at the bottom, do you see there is like a little, yeah, that icon, yeah.
Is that it? Did that change it at all?
Not yet, no, it did not.
Okay, because I've got it up on slideshow, so on my screen, all I have is slide presentation. So let me do something here and see if I can do this.
Okay.
Oh, I know what I want to do. Sorry about this, people. We'll see if we can correct our...
We'll figure out. If not, no worries. Your screen is pretty big, so we can see.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it as large as I can. I'm going to get rid of this.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yes, perfect.
And then let's zoom it in.
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
Yes, that's wonderful. Great. Go ahead.
I don't really know what was happening. My screen showed that I was in slide presentation mode. So hopefully we'll
the wonders of technology.
That's it, isn't it? Let's make it as big as we can.
All right. So now I see you. I don't see your screen. I think it got unshared. We're going to share again.
Okay, let's see if I can get back to this. Oh, I know what I gotta do. Do that. Come here. Okay, so here we are, and now I'm going to share my screen again.
Mm-hmm. And
now we're going to come here to this, and that should do it. Are we there?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Terrific. So this was the slide that was up before. Oh, you saw the slide, but it just was not in the right mode.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So moving on from there, we asked the question, why Ayurveda? Why wouldn't I just, do some kind of laxative or something if this is the case? Well, Ayurveda uses natural cures to life's problems. The fixes that I'm going to recommend are going to have to do with water and fiber and oil and exercise, not just taking an herb that's going to help you to have a bowel movement in the morning, but one that's going to help you to have a good quality bowel movements every morning. Constipation really is a disease that begins and ends in the digestive system. Ayurveda's primary focus is on addressing those imbalances. From the Ayurvedic perspective, all disease begins in the digestive system. So if we have constipation, we are at the threshold of disease. And if we can eliminate that problem, we'll stand a better chance of creating health in the entire body. The third fact is one that I really appreciate about Ayurveda. It's affordable, it's accessible, and it's adaptable to modern life. It may be 5,000 years old, but you're not going to have to go out and dig up a root in your yard. It's more about looking at the foods you have and seeing how can they really maximize your ability to have good quality elimination. If you're familiar with Ayurveda, you may have heard the term of the doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata dosha creates more dryness in the body. It's said to be made up of the elements of spaciousness or etheric qualities and air. And what Vata does to our elimination is it creates dry and hard stools. So when you're having a bowel movement, you recognize that you've got a dry, hard stool that passes with straining, you most likely have a Vata dosha imbalance. Pitta dosha is made up of the elements of fire and water. Pitta types don't usually experience constipation. The only time when you're going to have something like that is if it follows a fever. In that case, as soon as you have a bowel movement, you'll be done with it. Kapha type tends to go heavy, moist, dense, because they're made up of earth and water. So Kapha tends to create sluggishness due to slow peristalsis. Both the Vata and the Kapha may spend a long time in the bathroom. The Kapha, however, is not in discomfort. The Kapha is simply waiting. Because as we know, water and earth tend to move slowly. And so they just wait until they pass the stool. So when we look at constipation, true constipation with hard, dry stool, straining to pass, difficulty with elimination, is going to be part of Vata dosha. As we go and we look at so what causes constipation? Vata typically causes the poorly formed stool.
Mary, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Your presentation is not shared. Can you just reshare it? We can see you, we're not a presentation.
Has it shared it at all?
It was shared, but it went away. So can you just try once more?
I can do that. I'm wondering why it's doing that. Let me come back here. So I have to get back to the screen here. So it's here. So I'm screen sharing. And I do here. Does it, I don't quite understand why it's stopping. So just let me know if it stops. I'll go back and address it.
Great. Okay, perfect.
I don't know if I'm pushing a button. So many technical difficulties. It's a very Vata evening here, trying to figure out all our technical difficulties.
Yes.
So what Vata dosha does, Vata dosha dries out and makes a really poorly formed stool. The stool may be hard, it may be dry, it's small, and there may be bits of food that are still undigested in it. And when we see that, we know that Vata is behind it. And so what we'd want to do is take steps to improve what I call stool quality, so that we get a moist stool that's very well formed. Another problem we might have is lack of peristalsis. Peristalsis is the muscular contraction in the colon that helps keep that stool moving. That's more likely a problem with Kapha dosha, where they lack muscle tone. Pitta tends to cause a temporary type of constipation, and that's where it comes as a symptom of disease or maybe following a fever. Apart from that, once you clear it, you don't have to worry too much about it. When we look back at the qualities like poorly formed stool, we often develop that from poor food habits, poor food choices, having a lack of water or oil in the diet, or sometimes it's taking certain supplements like iron or calcium can cause that. With lack of peristalsis, the biggest culprit, lack of exercise. When you lack muscle tone anywhere in the body, you lack muscle tone everywhere in the body, and you've got to look at ways to increase that. It could be caused by other things as well, such as underactive thyroid, or there are sometimes medications that suppress peristalsis. And we'll look at all of these causes, and we're going to look at cures too. Okay, so we look at the causes of poorly formed stool. Now, this is usually driven by vata dosha imbalance. The most common cause of constipation entirely is a lack of fiber, oil, and water in the diet. You might also find poor food habits like skipping meals, having irregular meal times, or having irregular portions, eating very little than eating a lot. Poor food choices, because there are some foods that are more constipating than others. Chocolate, high-fat, low-fiber foods such as dairy, eggs, and meat. If those foods are really high in the diet, we want to supplement, get more vegetable sources in. And we mentioned some supplements like iron or calcium. So these are the most common causes of a poorly formed stool. We'll look first at common causes of poor peristalsis, and then we're going to look at how to fix these things. So the second most common cause of constipation has to do with poor peristalsis. And this is often due to low muscle tone in the colon. This is driven by our lack of exercise. We've become a sedentary culture. We spend time sitting at home, to sit in our cars, to sit at our desks, to sit at the park eating our lunch, to sit back at our desks, to sit in our cars, to get home, to sit on the couch. If that sounds like your life, then it could be that poor peristalsis is being driven by this sedentary lifestyle. There are some other causes of poor peristalsis that could also come up, and these are more individual. If you've had a challenge in the past with constipation, you might have gotten into habitual taking of laxatives to help with elimination. If that's the case, your body becomes dependent on them, and then you need those laxatives in order to have good elimination. That can cause poor peristalsis. There are medical conditions such as an underactive thyroid or pregnancy, which could cause poor peristalsis. And then, of course, if you're on opiates for pain management or other kinds of medications, blood pressure medications sometimes, the medication might suppress peristalsis as well. So as we look at these, we're going to look at treatment. We know that our typical causes of poor elimination are going to be poor stool quality or lack of peristalsis. So let's see what we can do to address those. If you've identified, maybe you've got some irregularity and you recognize that you might have this poor stool quality where it's harder and drier, maybe it's not so voluminous, then you want to look at ways you can increase fiber, oil, and water in your diet. With fiber, we're looking to include about 5 to 8 grams of fiber per meal. That could be a bowl of oatmeal with breakfast and some vegetables with lunch and dinner. Having a bowl of soup that's got lentils in it can give you 11 or more grams of fiber without any effort at all. You don't have to spend all day eating bran flakes, but what you want to do is look towards whole foods, fresh foods, vegetable sources. They'll typically, whole grains as well. They'll typically be high in fiber. You can look, if you have bread in your diet, you can look at the bread and make sure it's got at least 3 grams of fiber per slice of bread to know that you've got good quality fiber that's helping to clear your system. What fiber does is it holds water in the stool and it gives the stool good form. So as we're looking at increasing fiber, what we're trying to do is to make a bulky and moist stool. Another thing we can do to help increase moisture in the stool is take oils. If you are very dry, you might want to take up to about 3 tablespoons of oil per day. As you begin to see the stool getting moister and moister, you can cut back on that amount. Now, if you don't want to take oil as oil, you could take seeds and nuts instead. So if you were to take seeds like flax seeds, hemp seeds, or chia seeds, you would take about 3 tablespoons of seeds to equal 1 tablespoon of oil. When you do that, it has the added benefit of the seeds being high in fiber. So you can get fiber and oil all at once. Now you put those hemp seeds on top of your oatmeal, you've got a really high fiber breakfast that's also going to have a good amount of oil in it. Nuts, any kinds of nuts, about 1 ounce of nuts equals a tablespoon of oil. So you can go with the really oily nuts like walnuts, or ones that aren't quite so oily like almonds. And again, if you eat the whole food, you're going to get the fiber in addition to the oil. If you decide you'd rather just take oil, put some oil on your rice or oil in your soup. Sesame oil, olive oil, ghee, and coconut oil are the best. And about 1 tablespoon of oil equals 1 tablespoon of oil. It doesn't bring in any additional fiber like the nuts and the seeds do, so you'll want to incorporate still the fiber in your diet. The third factor for improving stool quality is water. You want to take about a ½ ounce of water for each pound of body weight. If you weigh about 150 pounds, that means you'll want to take about 75 ounces of water during the day. Now, fortunately, this doesn't mean just water you're drinking. This is water that you're taking as water, as juice, as herbal teas, but it's also the water that you get from fruits and vegetables and soups and everything you take in. So as long as you look and your foods are fairly moist, that they're rich in vegetables and fruits, whole grains, you're going to be getting good fiber and you're going to be getting good water. All you'd want to do is add in the oil. So you can begin to look at these. The first thing you want to do if you want to improve stool quality is increase fiber, oil, and water. One thing I found very funny in my Ayurvedic practice was when I would talk to people who were more Vata nature, and they would complain that they'd been constipated their whole life. And all I would do is work with them on improving the stool quality with fiber, oil, and water. They were amazed. They had no idea that their dietary choices were what was creating that dry, hard stool. Now, if you have a soft quality stool, it should move out much more easily and more frequently. Some other things you can do to improve stool quality is to eat at regular times in consistent portions. Take time to digest, and Ayurveda is all about doing things consciously. Stay present with your food. That means avoid distractions. Try not to engage, in difficult conversations while you're eating. Let mealtime be a time to consume food, and then afterwards you can have the conversation. For your food choices, whole fresh food, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, fresh fruits, all of those are fiber rich, and the vegetables and the fruits are water rich as well. If you can, you want to try to consume at least half the volume of your day's foods in vegetables and fruits. Initially, that can be hard to do, but as you start adding in a little bit of fruit with breakfast, a little bit of vegetable with lunch and dinner, you'll find that pretty quickly you can accommodate more and more vegetables in your diet. Foods that are highly processed or packaged tend to be fiber poor. They're water poor. And so avoiding those or really limiting them. So, once a week or so, if you can, limit those processed foods or those that come in packages. And I sigh when I look at this because I love chocolate, but we want to limit those binding foods like chocolate or cheese that can actually create a binding quality in the stool, making it a little bit sticky and hard to pass. Some supplements that might be causing your problem with elimination are iron and calcium. And what you can do is try alternating days, like do iron every other day instead of every day, or try taking it in different forms. There are liquid iron supplements and liquid calcium supplements, and both of them are less binding than the tablet form. So as we look at improving stool quality, we've seen that we can change and take in more fiber, oil, and water. We can pay attention to our food habits, our food choices, and be conscious if our supplements are creating our problem. Now, as you notice there, none of this sent you to the drugstore to buy a laxative. All of it was looking at your digestive system, and elimination channel is designed to function optimally by the foods you put in it. But what if your stool is fine? What if your stool quality is good and your problem is the stool won't pass? In that case, you're looking at improving peristalsis. We improve peristalsis, and what happens is we get low muscle tone in the colon. So the muscle that's supposed to be contracting to push that stool through is not as strong as it once was. And our best treatment for this is to exercise. This can be done simply with stretching, walking. And if you want to improve all muscle tone in the body, add in strength training as well. So every day when you wake up, do a full body stretch where you can wake up your whole body and draw life force energy deeply into the tissues. Take some time during the day to walk. Maybe that's going to be parking a block away from work and walking into work, or maybe it's taking the dog for a walk, anything like that. But I put here walking, biking, dancing, something that gets your respiration going and gets your heart rate up a little bit. Strength training is great, and that can be done with low weights. If you like going to a gym, you might want to try that out. But the nice thing is, if you start practicing yoga, you do all three. We do stretching, it's got aerobic concentration, and you use your body weight for strength training in many of the asanas. So by doing yoga, you can improve muscle tone in the colon. Now, this is the only real supplement that I'm going to talk about, which is Triphala. Triphala is a 3 fruits formula that you'll find in herb stores or in Ayurvedic outlets. And it's an herb, it's 3 herbs, 3 fruits that support colon tone and improve peristalsis. What I recommend for people is make sure stool quality is good first, and then bring in the Triphala to improve peristalsis. Now, this can be taken by stirring a teaspoon in warm water that you might take at bedtime, or if you prefer, capsules can be found as well and will work just as effectively. You take 1 to 3 capsules with a little warm water at bedtime. Everyone responds a little bit differently to this, so you might want to practice to play with the dosages until you find what is the best dosage for yourself. So this is our natural treatment for peristalsis. Exercise, 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 and if you need to, incorporate some Triphala. The other treatments, the other recommendations here are for more difficult conditions. If you've had a history of laxative overuse and you now are constipated because your bowels won't move without the laxative, the first thing you want to do is improve the stool quality and the muscle tone. So fiber oil, water, regular food habits, etc., and daily exercise. If you need more help than that to get elimination going, I recommend you see an Ayurvedic or other healthcare practitioner. I know I've worked with specific protocols with people to wean them off of laxatives onto Triphala and eventually weaning off the Triphala as well. If you've been prescribed a medication that supports elimination, so your doctor has put you on some kind of medication to support elimination, be sure to speak to your healthcare provider before you change any dosage. By improving stool quality and exercising, you will not negatively impact the effect of any medication. It can only help. What I would be cautious with is I would probably not add in Triphala or any other kind of supplement until I was sure that it didn't counteract what I was already taking. So there might be some other things. If you've got underactive thyroid, you might want to, if you suspect that you have underactive thyroid, you can ask your medical provider to check your thyroid levels to see if that's it. What people report to me they experience with underactive thyroid is they feel like they could have a bowel movement. They feel like they start to have a bowel movement, and then it seems like everything stops. And then they wait, and they go out and they drink water and they do exercise, and they just never feel like the peristalsis fully is strong enough to get that stool moving. So if that sounds like something you experience, you might want to check those thyroid levels. If you're on a medication that suppresses peristalsis, you certainly want to talk to your prescribing doctor about the impact that's having on you. If your medication is creating a new problem like constipation, there may be alternatives to the medication you're given, or your doctor may have ideas for how to support you to have elimination. There are many types of medications which will interfere with elimination. Painkillers, antidepressants, blood pressure medications, allergy medications, antacids, anything with aluminum or calcium. So if you're experiencing constipation, probably due to low peristalsis, and you're on any kind of supplement or medication, take a look at warning lists on the labels inside and see if constipation is one of the side effects. If that's the case, go back to the prescribing doctor and see what you can do to correct that problem. Another underlying condition which might cause a problem is pregnancy. Progesterone, which is present in high amounts during pregnancy, slows down peristalsis. The best thing you can do is to keep the stool soft with the foods, oil, and water, maintain your daily exercise, and then make sure you allow enough time each day for elimination. You may want to talk to your midwife or your obstetrician to see if they have some suggestions for you. Triphala is contraindicated during pregnancy, and so we're really looking at using natural treatments, the food, the water, the oil, and exercise. Many women find that to be enough for healthy elimination. And sometimes they're going to be looking at doing things to possibly train the colon a little bit. Oh, before I talk about colon training, there's another thing that I really think is a fantastic idea if you struggle with daily elimination, and that is squatting to eliminate. In the West, we tend to sit in a very upright posture on toilets, and this makes elimination difficult. It actually puts a kink in the colon that your body has to try to work around. So recognizing that our posture is not conducive to easy elimination, we can look at other cultures to see what do they do. And many cultures around the world squat to eliminate. Now, some places have toilets right on the floor that they can use, but you can get devices such as the squatty potty or simply a stool that you might have in your bathroom that you put in front of the toilet that allows you to raise your knees above the hips. When you can raise your knees above the hips, you can support better elimination. And so, So this is something called a squatty potty that add there, and I've got a link to that. So then we look at, you have corrected the quality of the stool with your food and your water and your oil. You have improved peristalsis by exercise. You have changed medications or supplements so they're no longer binding as much. So you're ready, and you've gotten your squatty potty or your stool or something there to help you to get your knees up above your hips if that's one of your challenges. Now you're ready if you want to do what they call colon training. So I don't recommend trying this until you have good elimination, good quality stool, and good peristalsis, because apart from that, you just kind of take a bunch of time. So first the stool, then the peristalsis, and then squatting if you need to, and then bring in colon training. So what does this mean? In the morning, after you rise, you take about 16 ounces of water with a squeeze of lemon juice. This starts peristalsis, and the lemon actually draws some moisture into the body, into the digestive system to support flushing out the colon. After you've drinking the 16 ounces of water with a little squeeze of lemon juice, go and sit on the toilet and wait for the urge to eliminate. If you don't experience an urge in about 10 minutes, go ahead and get up and get on with your day. There's no reason to force it. But if you repeat this daily, your body will begin eliminating first thing in the morning after you take the water. The training occurs that you are letting it know now is the time, and you're going to give yourself enough time to eliminate. People who have a lot of Vata nature, they're usually 1 foot out the door. They don't want to stop and wait for elimination. People who have a lot of Kapha, they take a little bit more time. Both of them will benefit from colon training once the stool quality is good and the peristalsis is strong. Okay, the last thing I have here was just some resources for you, and I'm sure they'll post this up on our Help See Health page. There's Help See Health. Also, there's a link here. Drakes.com had a high fiber foods list, the 20 foods that were highest in fiber. So if you're not really sure what foods to incorporate, that's some good ones to bring in. There's a company called Banyan Botanicals that sells herbs, and they're a good source of good quality Ayurvedic herbs, and they sell Triphala in capsule form or in bulk herb if you prefer it that way. And I put the address here for the squatty potty if you're looking at investing in a device to help you squat to eliminate. The best thing you can do for your health is to find a way to normalize elimination. In Ayurveda, they say health is defined as balanced digestion and elimination, balanced doshas, meaning Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, balanced tissues and organ systems of the body, a strong sense of self-esteem, and a happy and contented state of mind. Being able to eliminate daily is one big step towards that happy and contented state of mind. Let me come back here and stop sharing my screen if I can. How do I do that?
We can see you now, Mary.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Perfect. Wow, that was wonderful. It was an amazing presentation. You simplified the information so much for us. Focus on the quality of the stool, focus on the peristalsis. You talked about what could be the temporary reasons. And then you gave us simple steps for each condition. How do we address it? And you took us even further beyond those. If somebody is having further issues, how they can use the squatty potty, they can do the colon training. That's so wonderful. I think we as nurses and Ayurveda practitioners, the first thing we want to ask people is, did you have a bowel movement? How was it? So I'm sure we're all very excited to share this information and really help people to use it. I know it's been so effective. Both you and I have experienced it with our clients. So we have a lot of...
If I could add one thing I noticed is when we're not eliminating daily, I mentioned at the end there about the healthy and contented state of mind. I notice with my son, if he hasn't gone to the bathroom, he's grumpier. He doesn't say, oh, I feel like I have to go to the bathroom. He's just crabby. And I say, do you need to go to the bathroom? And he's like, no, maybe. And he gets back out with a smile on his face. It's just like this. It's a whole mood switch that occurs.
Yeah, so much of our emotions and so much of the state of the mind is actually related to the gut. There's more and more studies that are coming out about this, and from Ayurvedic perspective, we knew it from thousands of years ago. So I know we have a lot of viewers online, and I'm sure people might be waiting to ask questions. So I'll open it up to all our audience. If you have any questions for Mary, I know she shared a lot of wonderful information with you. We hope that you can take it and apply it to your life, as well as share it with your community and your clients. So if you have any questions, please message us, and we will ask Mary right now, right here.
One comment as you're waiting for that I would have, when we think about the digestive system with Ayurveda, we'd like to be able to treat the digestive system with our foods and lifestyle as opposed to needing to use herbs on it, because that's what the system's designed for, is to take in food and to eliminate waste. And so we want to support the body to do its natural movements. Right.
So let me ask you some questions in the meantime. I know that when people are already taking medications, right? So if they've been taking Colace, or they're taking some medications where they need to take a stool softener, or they have been taking for a while, what do you suggest as the way for them to empower themselves with this bowel movement techniques, and how should they wean off? Should they wean off at all?
If they're on a medication that slows peristalsis, they do want to make sure that they're doing something to soften the bowels. Now, a natural substance that will soften the bowels is magnesium. And so they could look and talk to their doctor if they're on medications. I don't want to contraindicate anything between some medications that are out there. But typically you can do 400 milligrams of magnesium, which is going to give you a little bit softer stool as well. These are the people for whom the squatty potty is really great. And like I said, you don't have to do that device. It could be something as simple as a little step stool like you might have for a toddler getting to the sink, that you put just so you can raise your knees up a little bit. When you bring your knees up, you free up the colon. That's got a muscle that's going around and kind of holding it in place. And when we're sitting upright, like we're sitting at the table on the toilet, we put a kink in that. And so even if the stool is soft, you can't get around that kink. So for the person who's on medication that's giving them a little bit slower peristalsis, I do recommend they do whatever they can do to bring those knees up really high when they're having a bowel movement, because it'll be easier to pass the stool. Apart from that, so often I see people will blame the medication. Oh, I'm on this medication. But they could also be looking at their foods and say, I could be making better choices with my food too. So make sure that they're keeping the stool soft, incorporating foods that are natural stool softeners, such as dried fruits and prunes, apricots, prunes, or things like that, or juices, which will naturally soften the stool and bring some fibers in. So still looking at good quality stool, good peristalsis, as good as it can be with the addition of the medication.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And we have some good questions here for you. I see that there are quite a few moms here who are asking questions for their kids. So one question is, they said that, thank you so much for wonderful talk. Please suggest something for constipation in toddlers and kids who are fussy eaters.
That's really tricky. The fussy eater part is probably harder than the toddler part. Toddlers, usually if you give them a wide variety of foods, they'll get good fiber. They don't usually have to do too much more exercise. What you might do is see if there's something they're eating which is causing them to have a little bit more binding. If the stool quality is soft, then the problem is one of peristalsis. And so I remember when my son was young, I have a 13-year-old, when he was young, I could always tell when he was having a bowel movement because he would stand in a very specific way, like his feet would be about a foot apart and he would crouch over. And it was a very natural stance that you might see an animal take when they were going to have a bowel movement. And you might look at how and where is the child eliminating. If they're sitting on an adjustable seat on the toilet, they might be sitting too upright. So it sounds kind of funny, but see if you can support them to squat to eliminate, where they, instead of having even a potty they're sitting in, if they're squatting over a bowl that's the potty, and see if changing the posture is something that will help them with elimination. A picky eater kid is a tough one because sometimes they'll be very specific about what they will eat and what they won't eat. And so you're best if you just give them an array of foods that all have good quality fiber. And if they decide they want figs, but they don't want kiwi, that's no problem. The challenge is much more difficult if you have a kid like one of my nieces who refused to eat anything but top ramen for a year. And then you're going, well, there's nothing's moving in that child because it's so dry going in. And then you're going to want to supplement with lots and lots and lots of water to make sure that they can flush out what they've got coming in. And you could, if they will do this, is soak chia seeds in water and they can drink it. You can run it through a blender then, and you'll have nice fiber, nice oil in there without them even knowing it's in there. I want to talk about chia seeds for a minute. Chia seeds have become very popular, and you can take about a tablespoon of chia seeds and soak it in about a half cup of coconut milk or of juice, and then just let it sit. If you do it overnight, that's great. It's going to soak up and become the consistency of pudding, and it's going to taste like the juice or taste like the coconut milk. And they call it chia pudding, but it's nothing, there's no dairy in it at all. But if you do a little bit of banana, a little bit of coconut milk, and the chia seed, your child's going to think that they're getting away with something. They're going to think, oh my gosh, I'm getting this delicious treat, when really what they're getting is a lot of great fiber, a lot of great oil, and that's going to also help them with elimination.
That's a great idea about chia seeds and about the posture of the potty. Wow. I always learn so many things from you, Mary.
I think one of the things that I like is you just look at everything and you see it through those eyes of Ayurveda and think of, oh, how could I use this? How could I use that?
Fantastic. That's great. Let me go on to the next question. So again, we have a wonderful compliment here.
Thank you.
I love the healthy and contented state of mind. My 8-year-old daughter goes to bathroom at random times in the day, and I would like to train her to go in the morning. How do I do that?
I would try the same kind of colon training that was listed here, and you could see if there's a special tea that she likes. She might like a peppermint tea or a ginger tea, or she might like a specific flavor that's going to encourage her to drink a little bit more water in the morning, because children aren't really big water drinkers. And even if you put that little bit of lemon in there, many kids don't like the sour taste. What I learned recently is that very young children have a lot more taste receptors for bitter and sour. And so they kind of have this aversion to it, because what tastes a little bit sour to us is going to taste incredibly sour to them. So they don't like those things too much. But if there's a tea flavor she likes, like I mentioned, chamomile, peppermint, something that kids tend to have a little bit more appeal for, and have her take maybe 8 ounces if she can take that. And then say, now it's time we're going to sit for a little bit and just see if we can have a bowel movement. We're not, and if it happens, that's great. You can say, oh, that's fantastic, because this is the best time of day for us to go. I raised my son. I mean, we got raised with an open bathroom policy, which is just, you go in, you go, and people could come in and out because we just have one bathroom in the house. But what I notice now is he's 13 and he'll tell me if the quality of his stool changes or if there's something that's going on with it. Because when he was little, when he was 8, we would talk about it. We'd say, oh, did you see the food in there? We had those carrots yesterday. Did you see carrots in your stool? And, and then it became just a conversation point, and he would check his own stool out, which is kind of funny because you don't find kids doing that too often. But if it becomes something that's normal and natural, and that you're supporting her, say, this is the healthiest time of day. It doesn't mean it's bad if you go at other times, but it's great if you can go before school because, really, who wants to go in the public bathrooms at school? I'm sure they're going my own potty at home.
It's true.
So that could be another factor as well. And if she's got more pitta, if your daughter is a little spitfire, always got things going on, and she's the one who tells people what to do and when to do it, she may naturally have more than one bowel movement a day. Pittas tend to go 2 or 3 times during the day. So it could be having that first morning bowel movement is important, but she may also go a little bit more often if she's got some pitta in her nature.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a great point. So we have still 10 more minutes for questions. So everyone keep the questions coming. We have few questions here already, so I'll keep asking you, Mary. Let me know if you need a little bit rest. So one question is that a lot of people drink coffee, and it becomes that the coffee itself becomes a stimulant that they need for eliminating. Is that bad, that people get used to coffee as a way to eliminate?
I don't like to say it's bad. Anytime I have to depend on a substance to help me eliminate, then I run the risk of not being able to go if I don't get my hands on that substance. So I would prefer if I could eliminate before I had the coffee, if I could do it with the water, even if it didn't have the lemon juice in it, but just to start that peristalsis. So I don't want to say that it's bad if I depend on coffee, because I know people who count on that. The coffee gives them strong peristaltic action, and so it helps them with elimination. And what we want to do is just see if I'm becoming dependent on it, then I do want to make sure the stool quality is good and that I'm getting enough exercise.
Okay, great. Wow, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I have more questions for you.
Okay, terrific.
So we have a question here. We have an honest person here saying, I like to eat fried food. How does fried food affect my peristalsis? Does fried veggies count for fiber?
I remember seeing a show one time where they were talking about deep frying, and everything tastes better when you deep fry it. Here's a ballpoint pen. Oh my gosh, that's delicious. Because I do think everything tastes better when you deep fry it. However, it doesn't necessarily make it any healthier. And in some instances, it can make the fats more difficult to digest. So including those sometimes in the diet would be okay. The fried foods are not going to affect peristalsis as much as they're going to affect stool quality. So if your stool quality is good and you're having fried food once in a while, I wouldn't worry about it. But if the stool quality is not good, then you'd want to make sure you're having the fresh foods on either side of the fried food. So I imagine, this is going to sound like a very odd analogy, but I have a juicer. And what they tell me with the juicer is to make sure that if I'm doing, say, carrots and grapefruit, which is not good food combining right now, but the grapefruit is very soft. And so they say, put the carrots in because it's going to, and then you put the grapefruit and then put carrots again because it will push the grapefruit right out. So my analogy here is if you're having the fried food, if you can have something that's really high fiber rich ahead of time, then your fried food, and then high fiber behind it, it's going to help push everything out. The fried foods tend to have low fiber, and so they tend to hang around for a while. So this is a way you can help move them out of the colon a little bit more quickly. But I agree with you, they're delicious.
Yes. Well, so since you touched on high fiber foods, there is a question related to that, and I'm sure most viewers will want to know what kind of vegetables and fruits do you recommend that are high fiber that they can add to their diet?
Oh, I would say, I really want to say any fruits and vegetables. Bananas are not really high fiber. They're good for kids because they do have a lot of soluble fiber. But most of the vegetables and fruits that you're going to stock in your kitchen are going to have a lot more fibers in them. So I always defer to like these lists on the internet where they give me the 20 high fiber foods and things like that. So I'm going to flip to him real quick. No, I'm not, because he disappeared. Some of
I
the
can
best
see
high
the
fiber
list.
fruits
Yeah, go
would
ahead.
be figs and dates. Some of the best high fiber vegetables are going to be root vegetables like sweet potatoes and carrots. Also, the leafy vegetables like kale and broccoli are going to have a lot more fiber in them. Some grains like whole grain brown rice or oats, those are really high in fiber. The other thing is lentils. Lentils, dals, beans are really high in fiber. And so any of those that you wanted to incorporate would be pretty good. And then, like I said, I'd given the list for the 20 high fiber foods, but if you kind of did a list for incorporating more fiber in my diet, it doesn't take much to go to 5 grams of fiber, especially if you go to buy the bread that's got at least 3 grams of fiber in it. You have the sandwich, you automatically got 6 grams. And so it's going to be
Right.
some way to bring it in a little bit more.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. That's a great list, and we will be posting your list, and
Good.
this presentation will be available for people. That's wonderful. I think there's a question, you touched on it a little bit, so I just want to bring it back home. There's a question about bananas. Are bananas good or bad for constipation, or are there certain types of bananas that help with elimination?
Well, bananas are really tricky. If they're really, really ripe, then they can be good for elimination. If they're not very ripe, they can be drying and can actually be binding in there. So you want to make sure your bananas are fully ripe before you eat them if you're concerned with elimination. And that would be where they start to show little brown spots, not where it's gone really brown and soft like you might do for banana bread, but just where you see that the peel is still mostly yellow, but you're starting to see tiny brown spots show up. I call those sugar spots. That lets you know that there's lots of good sugars that are available in the banana. It's begun the process of breaking down, and it's not going to be as astringent as a green banana is. So if it's got green ends, it's likely going to cause some binding in the elimination. If it doesn't have those green ends, it's yellow all the way and maybe even going towards brown, it's better.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. What a great way to know whether the banana is going to help or not.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So if
Great.
you're Pitta dosha, you get to eat the green bananas. You get the little bit of green on the ends and you're okay. Because Pittas usually have soft, loose elimination, no problem. And
they can handle it.
yes.
Well, one thing that's very popular is juicing.
Yes.
So when people are juicing, does that's destroying the fiber, and do you think that could potentially cause constipation or worsen constipation?
Well, that's a tricky question. Juicing does remove the fiber, and so it's not going to be a good source of getting fiber into the diet. It is a good source of getting water into the diet. So as long as you're taking the juice while you're still having about 15 to 20 grams of fiber a day, the juicing's not going to be a problem. If I'm having the juice and I'm having bread that has no fiber in it and a diet that's rich in meat and dairy and my grains are processed grains, then the juice is not going to help me because there's nothing in there that's going to give me good fiber for elimination. So when I think about it, I think of a juice as a good way to get water and vitamins and minerals into your system, but not a good way to get fiber in. And so if you need to incorporate the fiber as well, and if you're going to do that with vegetables, you might be better off making yourself a type of smoothie that's going to have the whole fruit in it, because then you'll be able to get the fiber and the flavor.
Yes, that's a great idea. Great idea. Well, let me ask you one last question, because I know this is a popular one too. You touched on pregnancy and not using supplements during pregnancy. What else can pregnant women do? If you think there was anything else to add to that part of the presentation.
As far as for elimination,
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing is it's funny because it's the same thing that's important for all of us, is keep the stool really soft. What's the problem is going to be peristalsis. And so when your problem is peristalsis and you can't do anything about the peristalsis because of the fact you don't want to interfere with the body's ability to keep those progesterone levels high, then you're looking at squatting to poop. And this gets into many women who go through pregnancy and they do prenatal yoga classes, or they simply do a lot of exercises where they're squatting because it's a great practice for getting ready for delivery. It also takes the pressure off the rectum, and they find it easier to eliminate in the squatting position instead of on the toilet. And so this is again where a squatty potty or a step stool is going to come in to raise those knees up as high as they can and to help with elimination that way. I think another thing that I would say is they could almost double the amount of water they take. They want to keep the whole body really well hydrated so that they're able to flush things out. Because what they're trying to do is the organs are trying to function around this fetus. And so as the organ's trying to function around the fetus, if I keep everything moving through the organs really watery, it can move very easily. If it gets hard and dry, there's a lot of kinks and twists in the small intestine, and if it's got a little baby elbow in it, it's going to be hard to get around it.
Yes, that was very helpful. I think a lot of very good ideas and great answers for specific questions that our viewers have asked. So thank you so much, Mary, for that. You brought in such wonderful knowledge about a topic that we all deal with every single day. So we learned a lot. We really appreciate it. And to all our HelpC viewers, I hope you enjoyed this presentation with amazing Mary. As you all know, bowel movement is so important. It's the core of our health. So I hope you will take a lot of these points to heart and give it a try. If you have questions, you have concerns, feel free to message us on the social media, and we will try our best to address them for you. HelpC is a platform which provides you access to these wonderful experts like Mary and more, who come with a lot of expertise in different aspects of symptom management and various healing modalities. So please do check out our platform so you can reach out to some of the best experts in the world and learn more about the different healing modalities. We are all here for you, and we wish you a good night and hope to see you again soon for our next presentation. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Sangeeta.